Where is the XSR? We want the XSR 155 in India. Why did they launch the FZX? We want the XSR 155. Over the last few years of reviewing Yamaha motorcycles, those have been some of the loudest and most common comments that we have received. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 6 years after this bike first went on sale overseas, Yamaha has now decided that India is finally ready for the XSR 155. Now, you must be wondering, is this a case of too little, too late? Well, I'm happy to tell you that it's actually a case of too late, but not too little. And the reason that it's not too little is because this bike has so much to offer you. Starting with, I think we must talk about the way it looks. This was the reason that Indians fell in love with the concept of the XSR 155 all along. It's a lovely looking bike. Modern retro design, harks back to old school Yamahas, but also with sleek, newer looking elements, and I think it comes together really very nicely. Nothing over flashy, nothing over the top, but just a classy, nice looking motorcycle with that Yamaha badge on the tank. Now, what is the XSR 155? You probably already know this, but for the few people that don't, this is based on the same platform as the R15 and the MT15. That means it has the same Delta box chassis, which is a perimeter frame, steel frame. It's got the same 155cc liquid-cooled SOHC engine that makes the same 18.4 horsepower, 14 odd Nm of torque. So the riding experience is largely the same as what those bikes offer, and that's a great thing because India loves that riding experience. This is one of the most popular single-cylinder bikes available in the country. People love the way the R15 and the MT15 ride, but both those bikes come with their compromises. The R15, just by virtue of having to sit like that, is an uncomfortable motorcycle. The MT15 has very polarizing looks, and it also has an unusual supermoto sort of riding position, which you either love or you just don't. This brings in a much wider range of appeal, and it's going to speak to a lot of people. Now, let me give you an example of how that is. I don't fit very well on the MT15 because there's not a lot of space for tall riders to move. The foot pegs feel quite cramped up to the seat, and you're up against the handlebar, literally feeling like you're sitting over the front wheel. It gives you a great sense of connection with the front wheel, but it's not a very conventional feeling motorcycle. You really feel like your weight is over the front, and it results in an unusual riding experience. Here, I am a little over 6 foot tall, and I fit really comfortably on this motorcycle. No intrusion on the knees, there's a good interface out here, lots of room on the seat, it's a comfortable seat, it's a nice wide handlebar. And another thing I want to talk about is the riding position. Now, looking like a modern retro bike, you might think that this is a relaxed, slow sort of motorcycle, but if you look at Yamaha's website, they call this retro sport, and you can feel that in the riding position itself. There is a fair amount of lean forward. It's not uncomfortable, but it's engaging. It really connects you with the motorcycle, and it makes you feel like unlocking all that performance and handling that it has to offer. But since we're sitting on the motorcycle, let's give you another perspective of what it's like for a shorter rider. So today we have Omkar with us. He's our photographer. He's at about 5'3", 5'4", so he is a little shorter than the average rider in the country. And as you can see, he is on his tiptoes. Thanks, Omkar, for the demonstration. Let me explain why Omkar is seated that way, and it's because this is an 810 mm seat height, and it's also a slightly wide seat. That seat height is a little taller than what you'll find in other premium 150, 160cc commuters made in India, but it's offset by the fact that this bike just weighs 137 kilos. So it is literally the lightest premium 150, 160cc sporty motorcycle in the country, and that's despite the fact that it has liquid cooling, there's a radiator up front, and it is more powerful than those rivals. So Yamaha really is giving you this light fun factor motorcycle. Now, while this is a very light motorcycle, it doesn't feel really small. They have given you a rather wide fuel tank that looks good when you look at it from the rider's point of view, and also feels good when you're sitting on the motorcycle. So it doesn't feel like a toy motorcycle, it just feels really light and nimble. So that's largely how the XSR differentiates itself from its 155cc siblings. Now let's talk about how it feels so familiar, and that's down to that engine. It's been a while since I've experienced one of these motors, but every time I ride them, I'm reminded of A, why it's such a lovely engine, and B, why India loves it so much. Let's start with the way it sounds. Nothing fantastic, but it is a clean, smooth, crisp sound. My first bike all the way back in 2010 was a Gen 1 Yamaha R15, and that sound really takes me back. The feel of the engine is also very similar, even though it has evolved over time. It is flexible, so if you want to be in third gear, fourth gear, slow speeds, 25-30 kilometers an hour, no problem in traffic. Gear shifts, very smooth. Clutch, nice and light. Very tractable and rideable in the city. At slow speeds, you can ride it in a really calm fashion. But when you start revving it, that's what this engine wants to do. It comes alive, especially post 6000 RPM. And the last update in about 2019 brought variable valve actuation, and you get a little VVA sign that comes on at about 7000 RPM. Now, for those of you who haven't experienced this engine yet, it's not a massive kick. You're not going to be texting your friends, VVA kicked in, bro. It's not like that. But you just feel the engine feel energetic, willing to rev, and happy to go from 6 all the way to about 10.5, 11,000 RPM. Peak power comes in at about 10,000 RPM. It's 18.4 horsepower, not a huge number, but good performance along with lightweight is a magical thing. And once you experience that, it's really hard to find that experience in other motorcycles. Now, what about acceleration, performance? We have tested it. It's about 11 odd seconds from 0 to 100, which is a really good time for a bike in this category. And the engine feels relaxed at 100 kph on the highway as well. You're just at that 6,500 RPM mark where you know that if you want to accelerate, VVA comes on, you got a bit of pull. So the engine is good out on the highway, better than pretty much any 150, 160cc bike. Top speed, it gets up to about 120, after which it starts struggling. 125 is probably the max you'll see if you're sitting up. You crouch down, find a long stretch of road, it'll do 130 plus, maybe even up to 140. You'll see that figure on the R15 a lot easier because of the wind protection, but this bike's performance is fairly similar. And then that brings us on to the aspect that people in India love so much. This has always been a super efficient engine. Again, it's a small engine, it's a light bike, and the benefits are that it's really fuel efficient. If you ride it really hard, yes, the fuel efficiency will drop, but in our tests, and we ride at a very gentle pace, never more than 80 kph on the highway, flowing with the city traffic, we got some really good numbers. Those numbers are just an indication for you. It will depend on how you ride, but if you ride gently, this bike can be really fuel efficient, and that is why it is so popular in India. Now, that's what the engine is about. Let's talk about handling, chassis. Again, very similar to the MT15. The basic setup is more or less the same, including the aluminium swing arm, USD fork, monoshock. It's just that you sit differently on this motorcycle in what I think is a more conventional way, and that makes it feel like a more natural handler. It's light in the city. It doesn't have the most lock compared to some commuters, but it also doesn't feel like it's too restricted. You'll get through gaps easily. And just the lightness of the motorcycle, I keep saying this, helps you even in the city as well. On a winding road, you'll have lots of fun. You could even take this to the racetrack, have fun there. It's got decent ground clearance, and it just has good genes which result in a fun to ride motorcycle. Suspension comfort is not bad at all. It's not great either. It's a little on the firm end, which gives the bike that lovely, supple, poised feel on a good road. But if you're riding on continuously bad roads for a long time, with that slight lean forward, you will feel a bit of a strain in the back at the end of a long day. For a motorcycle like this, it's absolutely fine. But if comfort is your absolute priority, then maybe you want to look at a different sort of 150, 160cc motorcycle. Braking, again, similar story to the comfort. It's adequate, it gets the job done. It's not wow, especially not the initial bite. It's not so sharp. It's a small 280mm disc, not even a 300. Again, something Yamaha can get away with because this bike is so light. But when you build pressure, there's good braking performance. Bring in the rear brake and the bike slows down really well. Dual channel ABS is standard, and it even has traction control, which if you're an aggressive rider, it can just be a pain. You'll have to turn it off, but you'll have to turn off every time you turn the bike back on. So that's something to keep in mind if you don't like traction control. If you don't care about those things, it's just a nice safety feature to have lurking in the background. Now, before we move away from the ride and handling aspect, one thing I want to talk about is the ground clearance. Now, when this bike launched, a lot of people on the internet noticed that Yamaha wrote on their spec sheet that ground clearance is just 120 mm. I'm here to give you some good news. It is 120 mm, but that's when the bike is laden, as in there is someone on the motorcycle. And they have since updated the website to say that the unladen ground clearance is 170 mm, which is the same as the MT-15, which is no problem. So if that's been a concern of yours, don't worry, it's all good. And with that addressed, let's talk about features and quality. Now, I think that this is a nicely put together motorcycle. There are certain touches that just give it a feel good factor, like these 3D logos, XSR on the tank, Yamaha on the side. These aluminum headlamp holders look really good. It's a small thing, but it's in your line of sight and it really adds a touch of class to the motorcycle. Seat itself looks good, nice sort of a pleated design, and it's a really clean looking rear section with no grab handle. Now, the only thing for your pillion to hold on to is this little strap out here, or if there's someone you're really familiar with, they can hold on to you. Now, we understand that Yamaha is working on an accessory grab handle, and if you're someone who's going to take a pillion with you very often, that might be something that you want. Beyond that, I mean, I really think that this is a handsome motorcycle. There are 4 colors on offer. This is a simple silver, to me, very classy looking. I just wish there was a bit more silver in the design. It's just here and there. Maybe a little touch of silver at the back or on this panel would have been nice. But if you want something more flashy, there's a red and black, there's a lovely blue and gold, which I think looks great. And that way, your options are taken care of. Features wise, it's decently equipped. You've got Bluetooth connectivity if you're into that sort of thing, dual channel ABS like I mentioned, switchable traction control, you've got hazard switches out here. It's got the USD fork, but it's not as well equipped as its siblings in that there's no TFT display. It's just a simple LCD that I think gets the job done. And I also like these 2 buttons here on the LCD. They don't require much force. They have a good click to them. And usually these display buttons really need you to press them hard. This works nicely. There's also quite a bit of information there. So you've got average speed, you've got average fuel consumption, liters per 100, again, a different kind of fuel consumption. You've got the clock, you've got trip F, which is when you run into reserve. That's a separate trip to let you know how far you've run on reserve fuel tank. And that might happen fairly frequently because this is just a 10-litre fuel tank, just like the MT-15. You've got trip 1, trip 2, and the odometer. So there's a decent amount of information in there. The only thing I find myself not really liking is the switch gear, and I have 3 reasons for that. The first is that there's this rocker style switch for the high beam, which means you can't just use your finger while keeping your hand on the bar. You've got to take your thumb off. It's not a good feeling. It doesn't happen very quickly. And on Indian roads, you want to have access to that quickly. The second thing I don't like is that, like some Honda models, they have inverted the horn and indicator switches. It's just an unnecessary inconvenience, especially if you're used to other motorcycles. You'll forever be hitting the wrong button. The third thing is that it just looks rather basic and almost cheap. Doesn't really match the rest of the bike, and I think this motorcycle can do with better switches. But beyond that, I have no complaints, and I actually really like what this bike is all about. And another reason why all of us at Autocar have found ourselves so fond of this motorcycle is the price. Now, yes, it is an introductory price, but 1.5 lakh rupees ex showroom, no matter what color you pick, makes this not so much more expensive than top-end 160cc premium commuters from Bajaj or TVS or Hero, and it also makes it the most affordable of Yamaha's 155s. Granted, it doesn't have the TFT display or the optional quick shifter. Maybe those things will come in the future as model upgrades. But even so, this is a very well-specced motorcycle, and I can easily see it go on to becoming Yamaha's most popular 155 in not a very long time. While I have been referring to 150, 160cc bikes as its competition, it's also really going at the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. And it's probably those sales numbers that has convinced Yamaha that India is ready for this motorcycle. Bikes like the Hunter, the Ronin, they are bigger engines, but this bike has more performance. This is lighter. It costs the same or less. So the XSR really has a lot going for it, and I'm sure that it will be a big success for Yamaha in India. I suppose to sum up, I will join all of you Yamaha enthusiasts out there in requesting the company to please not be so conservative with our market. You have so many excellent, exciting products available overseas, and please let us enjoy some of them as well.